789th meeting of the City of Laurel Historic District Commission will come to order. The qualifications of the members of the commission, the staff to the commission, and any consultants used are on file with the city and are hereby made a part of each and every application heard today. The guidelines and procedures adopted by the commission are also made a part of each and every application. Each application heard today is considered on its own merits and is not to be considered as establishing a precedent for any other application. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Chairwoman Blitz.
Here.
Mr. Hayes.
Here.
Councilman Les.
Here.
Mr. McSeany. Mr. Clacoon.
Here.
Mr. DiLorenzo. Mr. Dyer.
Here.
And we do have a quorum.
Thank you. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes for the HDC meeting held on October 6, 2015. Are there any corrections or comments to the minutes? What being said?
Motion to approve. I'll second that.
Madam Secretary, I have a motion on the floor to approve the meeting minutes from the October 6, 2015 meeting made by Mr. Hayes and seconded by Mr. Quigley. Would you call the roll?
Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. Clacoon.
Yes.
Councilman Les.
Yes.
Mr. Dyer.
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz.
Yes.
And the motion carried.
Agenda item 3 is HDC 024-2016 for 513 Main Street. Do we have someone here for 513 Main? Hi, could you come up to the podium, please? You want to state your name for the record?
John Bastiano. I'm here for Brian Bregman, the applicant.
So you are are you doing the work, or you're
Yeah,
here?
I'm Brian Bregman, the law partner.
Oh, okay,
Brian is out of the state right now.
okay.
I'm just hearing nothing. I'm nothing as to the property. I'm
Okay.
just hearing.
Well, you want to give us a little description of your carport?
So it's an open carport. It's no walls, roof, metal posts, silver, non-shiny metal posts covering only the paved driveway, paved existing driveway, covering only the concrete slab. That's already there. And I believe you submitted all of the plans and diagrams that were required to be submitted. Kind of an open air carport, green on top. It's made out of metal.
Right.
I think it's like a kind of a prefab carport, and you put it together yourself or have somebody erect it.
Okay. So, questions or comments?
My understanding is you have contacted your neighbors and everything, and everybody is compatible with this.
My understanding.
Yeah.
You have, sir? You contacted
That's
John?
my understanding.
Yes.
Brian had.
Talked to John and Ken next door?
My understanding.
Yes.
I have not, but my understanding is Brian done that. There's only one neighbor there next door,
Yeah.
behind.
Mr. Kish?
Yeah, behind the law office.
Yeah.
Right. Plus the other building is, the PNC Bank.
Unfortunately, you just mentioned, you're going to be able to see this structure from Main Street.
I think so.
Look down Post Office Avenue, you're going to see this.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
looking down Post Office Avenue,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, let me just make a comment. Okay? This is not compatible with the neighborhood.
I'm sorry?
This type of structure is not compatible with the neighborhood. There's nowhere along Main Street that this type of carport exists. The ones that exist, there's one metal building on Fetty Alley that dates from the 30s. It was a garage for Model A's or something. And the rest of the carports that have been constructed are done with wood and they're post and beam style. If they've got a metal roof, it's a standing seam metal roof. One of the responsibilities of this commission is to ensure that not only is the structure compatible with neighborhood, but the materials used are compatible too. I assume that the reason we're sitting here is that this is a relatively inexpensive way to get a carport back here. Just making an observation. Madam Chair, I don't think that the materials used in this structure are compatible with the historic district. When I went up and down Main Street, nowhere else is there this kind of a building.
I don't think that we have any of these types of buildings in the historic district
That's correct.
that are new.
That's what I'm talking about.
It just almost looks like a temporary structure to me, with the metal. And our guidelines, say that size, scale, placement, roof design, and materials should be compatible with the main structure. With the main structure as a historic building, correct? Very historic. And the accessory structure should be in character with other structures located within the neighborhood. So I'm just not thinking that it meets these criteria. And how about the other commissioners?
I would agree. I think that it's something that you would, see maybe in a suburban area, in a farm area or something that people construct. But in a city, and especially in a historic district, even though it is commercial, I just think it's very inappropriate.
If they want a carport, would they be willing to do a carport with wooden beams and like a regular roof structure, a shingled roof? Is that an option, or what other options would we come up with? Robbie, you're good with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, like Mr. Les says, 4x4s, post and be structure more than just a aluminum structure that could be damaged very easily, and it's not compatible with anything else on the street or on Main Street.
I don't know the answer to the questions, but I'll convey the remarks to Brian.
Okay.
I don't know what.
Well, there is a carport on the property next to yours, where Mr. Kish and Ken live, correct? Right behind this property. That's a post and beam. That's post and beam, if I remember correctly. It's a wood structure with that one has a composition roof. There's a couple of others around town that've got standing seam or something. It just, in my mind, I'm trying to visualize how this will look as people look down Post Office Avenue. I assume you all own the building, correct?
I do not.
Brian does.
Brian's an LLC that owns the building.
Yeah, I'm
Brian
sure.
owns the LLC, right?
Well, I hope you stay a long time.
Right.
But again, I think, I don't, again, that I don't believe this meets the criteria in terms of materials, compatibility with the main structure.
I don't think he'd be happy with it in the long run, and I don't think it would last as long as something that's built post and beam.
Well, I mean, the one on the next property's been there for 30 years, 20-some years, the one on Mr. Kidd and Ken's property.
Is there a purpose? Is he just trying to keep dust off of his cars, or is he trying to, keep heavier items off, tree limbs or leaves, or what's the reason for the carport? Just
I think both.
Both?
I'm not sure about the dust.
Because
It just
maintenance
protects
and
the
stuff
vehicle.
with like birds, that would be
Probably
pretty nasty on the metal
whether,
and thing like that.
And the sides are open on this, so, it's not going to be much protection from storms or snow drifting and those kind of things.
Let me just ask you, Sonny, if we deny this, can they reapply?
And then I'll work with the applicant about maybe a different type of structure.
Yeah, well, again, do we
Excellent.
want to deny it or do we want to table it? Again,
I think we would deny this.
Yeah.
we deny this,
Structure.
but that doesn't stop him from coming back with the.
No, he can reapply with a different,
Okay.
All right.
yeah, I don't think if he would appreciate knowing this is totally out because
Right.
he doesn't want
It
to.
just
Yeah.
really doesn't fit in with the streetscape or anything at all.
They can reapply with something more similar to. the
Like what's
neighbors.
next door? Like I said, I think that's post and beam if I remember correctly.
So
Post
deny
go up,
this.
the beams go across and they put a composition roof on it. But there are a couple around town that have actually got standing seam roofs on them. Well, they tend to be a little more expensive for that kind of roof material.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move that we vote on HDC 024-2016 as presented.
We vote. We vote.
That's
No?
up to us.
Okay.
Vote, vote to approve or deny.
Okay. And do I have a second?
Okay.
We can vote just no.
All you can just make, what's the motion, Doug? Is that a motion to deny?
I'm,
We don't have to do that. All you need to do is make a motion to either deny or approve.
right, that's what it is.
Deny?
Okay.
Deny, not both, but either one. Okay, fine.
Deny?
Right. 'cause he
I'll
was
make a
still saying
motion that
yes
we
or no.
deny
Okay.
HDC 024-2016.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Madam Secretary, I have a motion on the floor to deny HDC 024-2016, made by Mr. Hayes, seconded by Mr. Cooklean. Would you call the roll, please?
And if I
Mr.
could add-
Hayes?
If I could add a friendly amendment to that, that in that the structure that is proposed is not consistent with the materials or the building, the main building, materials and textures, etc. Therefore, it doesn't meet the criteria. If they'll accept that friendly amendment.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so can we just...
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon,
Yes.
Councilman Les,
Yes.
Mr. Dyer,
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz,
Yes.
and the motion carries.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry to waste your time like that.
No, not a problem.
Come see us again.
We look forward to seeing you. Agenda item 4 is HDC 025-2016 for 408 Laurel Avenue. Is there someone here for 408? Hello,
Yes, Timothy Sullivan.
Timothy Sullivan. Nice to meet you. And you're going to build a shed.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
It's, as described, it's an 8 by 10 foot shed, barn style, red, black shingles, white trim, will be in the southeast corner of the yard, so adjacent to 406 Laurel Avenue. It'll just be used for general storage.
Very nice.
Madam Chair, so they bring this on a truck and place it on blocks, I assume? It
Yes.
has a floor in it, is that correct?
Yes, it would have
Okay.
a floor. It would, I think you have to set down a few pavers
Right.
for the shed to stay level, to keep the floor from rotting.
Okay. The colors are as pictured here. Red
Yes,
and white?
I intend to keep it
Okay,
probably, farmhouse red.
okay.
I love your house.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you,
Any
Madam
other,
Chair.
any other questions or comments?
I did not receive this in my packet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's catching up.
Okay.
No problem.
Madam Chair, move approval of HDC 0252016 for 408 Laurel Avenue as presented.
Second?
Madam Secretary, I have a motion on the floor to approve HDC 0252016 as presented, made by Mr. Dyer, seconded by Mr. Hayes. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Dyer?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Les?
Yes.
Mr. Platoon?
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for coming.
Agenda item 5 is HDC 0262016 for 509B Main Street. Hello. Could you state your names, please?
David Louie.
Okay. Nice to meet you. Hello. Welcome. And you want to put up a sign. Tell us a little bit about it.
We're basically requesting approval for building signage and window wrap.
Okay. I like the cutouts on the side of the sign. That's very What is the Footage Society?
It's basically a sneaker boutique.
Oh,
So we're doing
okay.
the whole buying and selling.
Nice
Oh,
name.
nice. Cool.
What kind of boutique? I'm sorry.
Sneaker boutique.
Like shoes. Footage.
Any
That's
type of
clever.
sneakers. All types.
That's a
A sneaker
neat name.
boutique, that's,
That's pretty unique.
And you're going to paint the trim around the door and window navy blue to match. So that will be a nice compliment to it too. I like your logo. You should have looked at that closer with the sneaker in there. Any other questions or comments? Would someone like to make a motion?
I would love to make a motion. Madam Chair, I'd like to move to approve HDC 0262016 as presented.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Madam Secretary, I have a motion on the floor to approve HDC 0262016, made by Mr. Hayes, seconded by Mr. Clicloon. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon?
Yes.
Councilman Les?
yes.
Mr. Dyer?
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Great, thank you.
Thanks a lot
I
for
look
coming
forward
out.
to coming in there.
Good luck. I hope you're successful there.
Thank you very much.
Agenda item 6 is HDC 0032016 for 424 Main Street.
Madam Chair, since this was tabled at the 7:21 meeting, I'll move that we bring it off the table.
Do we have to vote on that, or do you just move it?
We're going to move it off the table, bring it off the table. Just need to have a second and a call
Second.
roll.
I'll second that motion.
We have motions to move this from table made by Mr. Councilman Les, seconded by Mr. Hayes. Or, I'm sorry, Mr. Clicklin. You call the roll.
Mr. Les.
Councilman Les.
Councilman Les?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon?
Yes.
Mr. Dyer?
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Okay. Now we'll reopen this. Tell me what's different from the first application.
Pardon?
What's different about the first application that was brought before us? Is the sign different?
I don't know the difference between the two.
Could you come up and tell us what the difference is, please? Because I don't have my other.
Right here.
rendering.
Ray McDonald.
Oh,
after the church.
I see.
And the first sign, there should have been a picture of it. Was,
I see it now,
a
I'm sorry.
sign all by itself, standalone,
Mhm.
with a pedestal. And the second proposal is a more traditional-looking sign with brick attire, cross, dark instead of light. And so it's a different look, more traditional. That was when we were here before.
Right, that was extremely modern.
The
I
concern
see.
was it was too modern and it needed to look more like a traditional brickwork. And we have bricks from the repair of the sanctuary, the extension of the sanctuary that we plan to use, so the bricks will match the church.
Nice. That's nice.
And it'll be capped in stone. The pillars will be capped in stone, and the base
Yes.
looks nice.
This is Bob Hughes. He's a member of our finance committee.
Yes.
Dave Hostetler, our trustee chair, was not available today.
We have a lot of guys here that can talk about this sign.
Well, I have to say that you've made a dramatic improvement from the first rendition, and I personally like everything. I think the brick is sympathetic to the church. I love the shape of the sign, the way you have it.
Me too.
But I have to tell you, I really hate the fact that you're going to have this sort of LED neon, LED, I guess it is.
Message board.
Yeah, the message board. That is a real concern and a real problem in the historic district.
The main reason for that is because the church has so many events that we would be locked into only advertising the very next event if we had stationary letters, or we would run our secretary to death going back and forth to change it. And so this way we might be able to start announcing after Thanksgiving our Christmas Eve services if we had the sign, instead of waiting till the week of Christmas to let the community know we were doing something. So multiple announcements, like at McCullough Field, would be able to be advertised for the church and community.
Do you really think if you advertise more than one event, people are going to be able to sit there and see
They may
what's-
not on one pass, but they may on the next and the next and the next pass see the other advertisements.
With the sign we have now, it's almost impossible to do that because it faces Main Street. You almost have to be right in front of it to see
And it's
it.
the older
So this way
traditional
you have to see
signs
coming and
too.
going.
Right. We understand
Yeah.
that you need a bigger sign.
Will that sign be coming down? Will you be removing that sign, or will that sign stay up? Because it's sort of on the other side of where this is going to go, right?
I would say if it doesn't have to come down in order to get this passed, we would leave it up.
Well, and yeah, that sign definitely has historic value, and therein lies the rub. If there's any way that you could, because on this sign you're not really advertising some of the traditional things that you would on a church sign, which would be your service times and your.
There would be
stuff.
service times as
But you
well
would
as the
have-
announcements
okay.
on this board,
Okay.
which could be seen then by traffic coming and going instead of the one that's sitting straight flat against the street.
Now this would still it would still be facing the street,
And it'll be a two-face sign, so you'll see it coming and going.
so it will be sideways.
East and
You
west.
see it lit up both ways on the street.
And the refresh rate is zoning past the
That's
refresh rate as far
Okay.
as how
I
often it
didn't
would
realize
change.
that. So
It wouldn't be something that would be flickering or
Right.
anything like that.
Flashy.
It's our way of communicating with the community.
do you have a
We need that.
website
We all need that.
and a Facebook presence? Okay.
Because that's in my church. It's a very historic church up in Howard County, but we do everything by Facebook, and the
We have a
Facebook's
social media
great.
presence.
Because you
as
can
well as
do
website.
your archives and old pictures and information, history of the church. It just
One of the challenges here is that this, Not the first time somebody's proposed something like this for Main Street. Just never got in front of the historic district. Mr. Brundle was here. People came in and talked to him. Banks love to have these kind of facilities. Sort of unique that we got 3 banks on the street still. And the difficulty is, from my perspective, I'm just giving you my perspective, that's all. Once you allow the first sign, then you open up I'm not going to say a Pandora's box, but it's a Pandora's box. Because then you're going to have other businesses on the street. Not churches. Although you've got at least one church on the street. But you actually have more than one church on the street, because the Women's Club has got a church there on Sunday morning. And what happens is, before you know it, it's a lot like neon lights and what happened to main streets in small towns like Laurel back in the 30s and the 40s. First one put up a neon sign, and then you had all kinds of neon signs. They're all gone except for Hoist sign, which used to have neon on it. And I guess everybody thought they didn't want the other guy down the street to have an advantage of them. That's from my perspective. When you say, especially when you say you're going to, what's the change rate right now under the current ordinance, sign ordinance? Yeah. Yeah, see that? In my mind, I don't see that as being consistent with what we're trying to do on Main Street. The city is buying a lot of property on Main Street. We're starting to tear down properties because we want to go ahead and rejuvenate those properties. And again, just talking out loud, just not saying I've made a decision. I'm just saying that I think that we've got an issue here.
If I heard the chairwoman's statement at the beginning of tonight's session, is that each case is dealt with individually and not setting precedent for any future cases. I would also suggest that our church has a very large footprint on Main Street. Mm-hmm. It's not a storefront. It's a larger piece of property. So a sign like this probably wouldn't go up somewhere that didn't have the kind of footprint.
But along those lines, and along what Councilman Les was saying, we have to view who your audience is going to be. And I would think primarily your audience is going to be your parishioners, the people who are, well, the whole community, but especially the individuals who want to know what's going on at the time within the United Methodist Church. Given that, I would think that something that was more stationary, not having the constant rotation of message, which would refer you to something else, which would, a website, whatever it may be, maybe even, I don't know, something on the side of the building, interior, I don't want to speculate, might be more appropriate. Something that didn't have some sort of a rotational type of message to it. Because I would think that the members of the church would see we'll turn to this particular website and find out what's going on. Other individuals, if they're interested in joining the particular community, would also turn to that. I'm just concerned about this rotational type of message.
It wouldn't be turning like that. It would be put on there and stay for a day or 2 days or 3 days even. It doesn't just keep moving.
If the refresh rate is the issue, we don't plan to do something every 6 seconds. It's more of maybe even whether it's a day or two or whether it is 20 minutes. It's just the ability to be able to advertise more than one event coming up without having to go out and change the sign.
Well, even beyond the refresh rate, just the kind of the LED type of thing. It's just I don't know. It's the issue that I had, to begin with. It's kind of commercialization. I understand what you're trying to do, and I appreciate what you're trying to do. At the same time, if we can make that consistent somehow with the character of both Main Street and the district, and yet get your message across, perhaps by reference to a stationary message that references a website, whatever. That's just my concern.
I have to cite some of our guidelines that address this, is that the elements of the sign should be reflecting compatibility with your building's design, and as well as the appropriateness of the material in relationship to the building. And we state that iridescent and neon colors are discouraged. The placement of the signs should respect the existing pattern established by signs on the same block. And what we deal with in lighting is generally front-lighted signs with gooseneck lights, and any external lighting should be masked by shrubbery or other screening. So the lighting itself, how light would that bright be?
It's backlit, and the brightness can be adjusted.
And it wouldn't, we don't keep planning on keeping it on all night long. It goes off. But we need to inform the community. The church members know what's going on. It's the community and the people that we want to inform of what's happening. We had, 1,300 kids come for our trick and treat night?
Yes.
We had a little sign outside.
Closer to 2,000 were on the
street. We would have
that
1,000
night.
more kids there. We would be helping the community. We'd be helping
We were
Laurel.
there that night.
Is this going to be a color sign?
Yes.
That's the plan.
Okay, so you could put,
3 colors perhaps.
it doesn't have the ability to put a
We would
picture or
Graphics,
graphics on it.
very limited.
I guess what I'm looking at is this rendering here.
Yes, that's
Would
not
you-
as
Would
bad.
you have the ability to do something like that? Or
Yes.
Right.
right, okay. So
The
multiple,
bottom part would change.
as opposed to that one.
Right.
Right.
That was more chromosome or whatever it's called.
But it's a form of advertising, which all businesses or churches or schools or anybody else need. I mean, you got cell phones in your pockets. I bet every one of you have.
No.
It's a way of
No.
it's a way
And
of
I work in
communicating.
IT, and I work in IT, and I don't have one.
It's a way of communicating, and that's what we need. We need to communicate.
But signs really aren't the primary advertising medium that's used nowadays, because people are traveling so quickly to their destination that they're not even really looking at signs.
Most of our visitors find us on the website. That's true. That's where they tell us they find us, or word of mouth from the congregation. But that's because we don't have a sign. We don't know who we would draw in with an effective sign to get the information out.
But if you spent all this money on your sign and it didn't bring in as many
And we've made a decision that cost us money and didn't pan out.
because it's such a beautiful church building. I love everything about the sign except for the electronic part. I love the way you have the cross on the top and the curvature of it. I mean, the second rendering is very nice. I just have a hard time with the electronics and the lighting of the electronics. It's a hard.
Well, and at the last time we were here, what we heard was the design was the issue. We didn't hear the concern with the LED lighting. It was the design, the appearance.
Well, it was also definitely the lighting. We probably have that reflected in the minutes, but there just isn't anything like that.
There are many churches in the area that have similar signs. They're not all in the historic district, obviously.
I don't think there's any in the
Well,
historic.
McCullough
district.
Field is in the historic district, and it has a sign very similar to this. The Catholic Church has
That's
a
a
sign.
portable sign,
No.
isn't it?
They have a sign against their building that's
What?
of similar nature.
That's what, Plotty? They moved it back to the building
Right.
and buried it in the building. They were not allowed to put it on the street. Is McCullough Field sign a portable sign? It can be moved if I remember.
I think that's one of the portable ones.
Okay. We've got three historic churches in the area. You've got the Methodist Church, St. Philip's, and St. Mary's up on the hill. St. Mary's has a traditional sign. St. Philip's has a traditional sign. Lottie High School were not allowed to put a sign on the street. They had to bury it back on the building. Okay. And the one at McCullough Field is portable. It can be moved.
But suppose it's never moved.
Huh?
Suppose you never move it.
I'm just telling you, it can be moved.
Well, we could
It's-
put one of those
No,
on
no,
board
no.
if that was an issue.
You've got Main Street here, which is a historic Main Street. I'm just making that statement. The city is spending a lot of money on the street. We spent $600,000 on lights at one shot because we heard what was said by the people on the street. They wanted something to look like a mismatch down there with the lights. Okay? We just tore down the building next. Excuse me, sir.
I was born and raised in Laurel.
Well, I'm a newcomer. I've only been here 46 years.
Well, I've been here 86 years.
Well, I think that's wonderful.
And I used to walk up and down Main Street with no problems whatsoever with less lighting.
Well,
Lighting is what we're talking about.
I don't see where Main Street is that historical anymore. What's historical about Main Street?
I'm sorry you feel that way, sir.
Well, I am, because I was born and raised here, and I see the old buildings gone.
Not all the old buildings are gone, sir.
Most all of them are gone.
Well, we're trying to keep
You
this
allowed
one.
the building association to be gone.
But the building association's still there. The Laurel
Well, it's
building and
covered
loan
up.
is, huh?
It's covered up,
The Laurel building and loan building is still there.
but it's covered up.
It is still there. Citizens National Bank building is still there. There's
That's
been
an
a
old
concerted effort by the elected officials in this town over the last 45 years to maintain what we have on Main Street so it didn't die like all the other Main Streets did.
Well, compare Ellicott City's Main Street to Laurel's Main Street, and you'll see the difference between historical and non-historical.
Sir, Ellicott City is the county seat. That is a different story.
No, it's a
Well-
historical town or not a historical town.
Well,
Have you seen the church, the Lutheran church on 197?
Yes. Yes.
It's a very attractive sign. I go by there
Yeah.
every day when I come to work. That's probably what we're looking at, maybe the lighting being a little different. So, you know, I just don't think it's going to affect things that much. I mean, it's not going to make, it's not going to aesthetically hurt the area. It's not going to.
I think we're going to open.
I think aesthetically it is going to hurt the area because I find them so offensive in a historic district.
What's offensive, the light?
It's the light, the changing.
Well, how would you do the sign? Isn't that the whole point of the sign, so the community can see the message? That's not arguing. Oh, I'm not arguing.
No,
I'm just,
I understand.
I'm just
We're
I'm just saying,
conversing.
isn't that the point of the sign? To be able to see the message?
It is, and it's certainly a traditional initial way of advertising anything. But again, we are trying to preserve what's left in Laurel. The Historic Preservation Act only happened in the 1970s. Believe me, I'm sure by that point, a lot of the buildings that you were talking about probably were gone by then. It's a shame. Had historic preservation been, more in the front of people's minds and more attractive financially for different reasons, Laurel would probably have a lot more of those buildings still here. As for signs, there are ways, as Chairwoman Blitz mentioned, about that you can light signs that bring attention to them. And I'll tell you that the thing that I have a real problem with is not the lettering on here, but that background. If you just had, if what you really want to do is make it so that it's easier or more convenient or safe even for you to change the message and the events on that sign, do away with the background and just have the letters.
We would have the ability to do that.
Just have a black background or a white and black letters, whichever makes sense. For me, that would be a compromise kind of thing. I'd still hesitate. Again, I know that we talk about precedents, but and we sort of say that, but then it becomes a precedent, and it really does.
The picture that you see is the picture we were sent by the signage company.
Okay.
It would have that capability.
Mm-hmm.
If, in order to get the sign approved, we were to do multiple messages with white background and black letters, that would be acceptable. We're not looking so much for the graphics as the information.
Okay.
If we had, like the Lutheran Church, a black background and red letters, that's basically all they do. If their graphics come in, they come in with red, just as a red graphic instead of all multiple colors.
Yeah. Yeah, the red I have a problem with. I'd have a problem with anything other than black and white, to be quite honest with you. And that would still get your message across.
Right.
And, it would to the passerby, it might even look more traditional, and they might not even know that it's an electronic sign. That would be my goal for that to happen. Whether that can or not, I don't know. I'd feel uncomfortable saying, okay, you have to do that before I actually see it. I'd like to see it, to see how it looks, because something that's printed doesn't always look the same as it does in real life.
The caveat would be the graphics, but the black and white projection, we can certainly accept that.
Okay.
Our goal is not so much the graphics as it is getting the message to be able to be changeable.
Super. Thank you for that. That's pretty much, I didn't mean to, I just wanted to offer some sort of a compromise here, or potential compromise, because I understand your message. And I understand what you're trying to achieve. I think the presentation here is beautiful. And I think, again, all of that is acceptable to us, except the way that it's the message is presented here.
To see the sign, it's not going to look like a wooden sign. Is it a plastic kind of shiny?
It would have a plexiglass cover to protect it from damage, rocks and stones and stuff.
And would that be the entire sign, or
just the portion?
Just the screen part?
Yes,
Okay.
the screen portion. Which even the standard signs have plexiglass or some kind of covering. You don't have the letters exposed to the weather. They're usually protected by some kind of
if there's.
I'd just like to ask a question. Does the city have an ordinance on luminaries, the amount of light a sign can give off? Okay. Because you said you had the ability to turn the sign up and down.
And turn it off. We can put it on a timer so that it would be off from, 9 to 6 in the morning or whatever. So that it would be something that would be flashing at night.
Okay. That, I guess we would need to know that so we could work it into an amendment if we got that far. But that would be, I guess, one compromise. You wouldn't be able to illuminate it more than whatever the city
Absolutely.
would require.
If there's any way that you could get the sign manufacturer to give you some photographic, real examples of what we're talking about in terms of just the black and the white, and I don't care which way it goes, black background, white letters, or white background and black letters. I would really appreciate to see that.
Doug, this is Stewart Signs, correct?
Yes, sir.
They must have installed this kind of a sign somewhere else.
Mount Zion over in Whiskey Bottom has a similar sign. They haven't put it up yet.
Mhm.
It's leaning against their building. If you go by there, they're not in a historic district, but they have a similar sign.
Okay.
But I can certainly in the morning call them and get them to ship us out this same picture using a white background and black letters.
Well, and I would like
the picture is not.
yeah, I would like a real
shows
photograph of one
One that they put up.
they put up,
Okay.
yeah, as opposed to a rendition. Just because that's going to be, and if there are any local within a few miles that they have that are like that, if you could get that information to Sonny, and I personally would be willing to go there and take a look at it.
I would imagine that most of the signs that aren't in the historic section want to have a graphic.
I understand.
To put an American flag up, for the 4th of July or whatever.
Even if they could send us pictures with the graphic on there, we would have something to compare. We could see what a graphic would actually look like.
And again, our main goal is to have something that we can change from the computer in the office instead of manually coming out and making the changes.
I totally understand that. Yeah.
So this entire sign would be like plexiglass.
I believe it's the part that's covered. The electronic part would be the plexiglass.
Okay.
I'm not certain
What I would
off the top of my
suggest
head.
is again, and this is just kind of a tidbit, but if you could maybe somehow frame all of this in wood. Perhaps frame the sign somehow, and including the cross, everything like that, kind of in wood. It doesn't stand out quite as much as being kind of plasticized. That's my own personal word.
Plasticized, I like the word.
You like that? I think I made it up, but it never.
They make plastic that looks just like wood.
Just some sort of a framing that makes it look a little bit more
The top
traditional.
part is something that the company said was part of the frame. So if we could get that extended all the way around, that black part at the top with the cross,
Right.
add it to the sign. So I'm sure they can add a trim all the way around to the sign.
Like a framing. Okay.
And basically, it's framed in brick for the most part.
Right.
Right. It's got the traditional look of the brick work, and the bricks would be the bricks.
I
that
don't
match
have a
the
problem
church.
with that.
Yeah.
I just have a problem with the electronics.
Yeah, again, I think what my idea is trying to minimize the impact of the electronics so that you can still get your message across, but it be acceptable to the historic district.
I'd probably be willing to go with the white and black, but I'd need to see it before we could.
Yeah, I would too.
Just
Yeah.
to be sure of how it looks.
Mr. Hayes, are you suggesting we continue this till next meeting?
I am.
And I think if you can try and check with Stewart to see, maybe Stewart's got something they put up within, it's
Or
even
something
close
that
to
they
Rockville
need.
or something. We could just take a look at it. That might be helpful. Let me just clarify. So the only part of this that's going to be electronic is about the bottom 40% of the sign on both sides.
Right.
The top
Well,
part of
let me change that. I'm not certain of that. What I would say is the top is permanent.
Yeah, I understand. That's,
So it may be electronic but permanent, it's not changeable. I think it's permanent letter.
it would appear to me this is going to be backlit on the top.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be some kind of, again, it'll be backlit, and that the electronics will be on the bottom. Okay. So again, I'm willing, if you can find something, ask Stuart. I'm willing to go look at it. I know that Mr. Hayes will too. I'm sure most of the members
We
sitting
could
up
do
here
a
will
field
take the
trip.
time to go look at it. And again, I'm less concerned about when it's lit. I'm more concerned about how often it doesn't change. You know, if you change it every 24 hours, that's fine. The problem we have with signs and these ones that they change constantly, and the police have found out, they cause accidents.
Sure.
You know, somebody's trying to, whoops, they changed the sign. What did it say? And we've got a narrow street we're dealing with anyways. And hopefully nobody's going more than 25 miles an hour.
And I wouldn't imagine that I travel Main Street all the time.
Yeah.
Someone traveling Main Street, the messages aren't going to be so detailed that you
Right.
have to check. They're going to be simple words, Christmas Eve, 5:30, you know. Simple message to get it across. We're not going to put a long, lengthy message on the sign that's going to cause people to slow down and change. And the change rate or refresh rate, whether it's 24 hours or even a half an hour, is not going to have someone stopping, waiting for the next message. It's not. We're not trying to flash 4 messages to someone traveling down Main Street in that same trip.
Okay. Well, how about we continue this at the next meeting? And if you can bring us something that we can see what it looks like in reality to really be able to make a decision.
And can I ask, are we favorably leaning toward if we come up with that? I mean, if we're going to say no, I'd rather say no before we do all the work. But if you think that it's a possibility that this new avenue is possibly going to work.
I would think we're not going to make you do work, and if we've already decided.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's what I'm asking.
If you be willing to just keep your graphics to black and white and not change
I will be
them.
calling Stuart in the morning.
And I'll ask you to let Sunny know she can let all the commissioners know here.
And
If
we'll
we get a
go.
rendition or pictures or locations, we'll get that to Sunny.
Yep.
So that she can let you all know.
Right.
Okay,
When is the next meeting?
December.
The 15th of December.
15th of December. Thank you.
Not too far off.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
sorry to
Appreciate
keep
it.
making you refine it.
Continue without doing
Yes.
Sweet. Okay.
Okay. Agenda item 7.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much.
Go Maryland tonight, right?
Amen. Get home in time to watch the game. I got my right shirt on.
Agenda item 7 is a tax credit request for 211 10th Street. We have a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Madam Secretary, we have a motion to approve the tax credit for 211 10th Street in the amount of $1,170. Oh, $117.06. Sorry. You call the roll.
Councilman Lowe,
Yes.
Mr. Dyer,
Yes.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon,
Yes.
Chairwoman Bliss,
Yes.
and the motion carries.
Thank you. Next tax credit was for 403 Prince George Street in the amount of $128.01.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Cocoon,
Yes.
Councilman Lowe,
Yes.
Mr. Dyer,
Yes.
Chairwoman Bliss,
Yes.
and the motion carries.
Final tax credit for 517 Montgomery Street in the amount of $1,161.80. And a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
And a second.
I'll second that.
We have 3 staff approvals. Are there any questions or comments on
We
that?
need to be voted
Call
on
the
that.
roll.
Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't call the roll.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Councilman Lowe,
Yes.
Mr. Dyer,
Yes.
Chairwoman Woods,
Yes,
and the motion
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm so tired. Okay, then we have 3 staff approvals. Are there any questions or comments on that? None? Any new business?
Well, some new old business.
Yeah.
What happened to the Blue House? on
Yeah,
Main
that
Street?
was my question. Is there anything?
I'm sorry.
The Blue
The
House?
Blue House.
Oh, that's it. I received a call today from, what's the doctor's name, Cassandra. And he thought he was on the agenda for tonight. And I said, I sent you a letter and told you we needed to get together to discuss this. And we haven't done that, so you're not on the agenda. But you will be on December 15th and come in between so you and I can discuss what your options are. So he should be at the meeting on December 15th.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, one other piece of business. Is Jack aware of the study that was done of the significant properties? And are they going to look at that in the master plan review?
I had mentioned it to him. I could bring it back up on the vehicle.
Well, if we've got to do something else, we need to do it. But they're looking at a lot of things that, for example, looking at solar things and windmills and all that stuff as part of the master plan review. And I think the significant properties issue might be something that they might want to have on the table to look at while they're doing the master plan review.
I agree totally, and I'm on the master plan committee. And
I'm just reminding you.
I know, and I'm trying to sort of hold the position for the historic district,
Yeah.
and make sure that the voice is heard for that, and probably more than they want to, because I'm probably going to request that we expand the historic districts to an 8th district that includes the Grove, because that's not in the historic district. And it should be, I think.
That I would just make this statement that was done on purpose when they established.
Oh, I'm sure it was. I have no doubt about that.
A
Which,
reflection on when it happened, but that was on purpose.
yeah,
The schoolhouse was still there, I think. Wasn't the schoolhouse still there, Sonny? Or had they already torn it down?
It's still there, but it's hard to determine which one it is. And I
No. The schoolhouse that was sitting, when you went into the Emancipation Park, there was a one-room schoolhouse, elevated schoolhouse building there. And I think it was right about the time they set up the historic districts. And I think there was some concern that we'd set up this historic district and we have to save that building. It's a shame it didn't get saved.
It is a
Because there's
shame.
a couple in Maryland that have been saved.
right.
But we're going to have our own edifice over there with the new library.
Anyway, so I'm sort of
Yeah. But I think that's a
cognizant of
valid
that.
point. There's some old houses in the Grove still.
There are, not to mention the church. So
Yes, St. Mark's.
yeah.
I have one thing I wanted to say on a good note is that I was wondering if we could send a letter of thanks or a certificate of a job well done for the parish hall at 414 St. Mary's Place, because that building is absolutely beautiful.
Have you been in it yet?
No.
No, I haven't either.
And
But
it is exactly a perfect representation of what people can do building new construction in a historic district. I mean, it's really beautiful.
well,
The Kiesler Center. I mean, it looks like a mill.
yeah, I was going to say the new St. Mildred's, but it really
It's
pays
really
homage
so beautiful.
to so much of Laurel. They've really done an outstanding job with that, and we should hold that up.
We should.
Yeah,
It should be an
and make
example.
sure that, as an example, when people try and do something like this carport, we hold an example up like that, and yeah,
I mean, it's just really beautiful. Every time I drive by it, I'm just
I
like
agree.
in awe of it. That if you do the extra work, you can have something that's totally in fitting with the historic
If you
district.
win the lottery, you can help pay the debt.
Well, there's that.
That being said,
I think that's a good compromise with the sign, a cream, I would even go cream background as opposed to white.
I'd like it to be
Black
black
lettering.
with white letters and just make the sign look the same. But what really saddens me is that I really don't think it's going to be as effective as they believe it will be. I just don't think it's something that people going up and down the street look at, and that it may be a maintenance problem in the future for them. But
Here's what's happening with churches, my observation. Again, just my observation. They're trying to attract new membership.
right.
Whether it's the Methodist Church, St. Philip's, St. Mary's, they're keeping track about how many people go in there.
Absolutely, and they're trying all different ways.
All different ways.
So, and this is just
St.
one
Mark's
of the ways.
has got the same problem.
But I just think it makes the sign so ugly.
And what's happening, what I've noticed is happening, is the storefront churches are pulling some of those potential members away from the traditional churches into something else. I mean, go over to the women's club on Sunday mornings.
Yep.
You probably got 60, 70 people in there. You know, it's a storefront church.
Well, but and that's there are probably more different reasons for that. You know, about what the traditional churches are representing these days.
Yeah.
And they're not maybe changing quickly enough with the times.
Yep.
So yeah.
I don't think signs are going to bring the people. That's my observation.
It's just
I don't
one
either.
thing.
I really don't think.
I mean, if you mentioned the sign at Pilati back on the building, they put something up there and they leave it there for days. You know, the crab feast is coming, graduation is
You
coming.
don't see it.
They don't.
It's more like an electronic banner.
It's an electronic sign for the kids.
Well, but it's
and
still
the, and
more
the
like a
parents
banner.
driving into the school. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not trying to attract anybody.
I mean, what they used to do with banners is what they want to do with this sign, basically. And so I do understand, and I just love to see technology work for them and us. You know, if it can, great. If it can't,
There's got to be other historic districts that are struggling with this.
yeah.
When he mentioned Elgin City, you're not going to see a sign
You
like that in
don't see
Elgin
anything
City,
like that, no.
and you're not going to see it in Annapolis on West Street. I almost said that, but I didn't want to.
He was up there.
Shy
No, but-
dog discussion.
I will promise to do some research on that, just to have that in our
Well,
pocket.
Stewart must have
You
had
could
some
probably
experience
ask
already
on the
here.
MDHDC website.
Stewart's one of the
if any
biggest,
other
aren't they?
his-
One of the biggest sign companies. They
did-
must have had some
Did that
experience
looking at
here.
expansion of the
I
store.
looked them up actually and printed off a photo of the material, and what I looked
Yeah.
up
Historic
was
districts.
historic,
Also expanding.
digital signs in
Covering-
historic areas.
Now we're
Of course,
starting
you have to
to
be
go
careful
into
with
postal
web pages
opportunity.
because they're going to show you signs whether they really
Yes.
exist in
Right, I
historic
understand.
I
areas
wish
or
we
not,
could
you
do
don't
something
know.
with
You
the
do.
Laurel
But they
Art
are
Center,
at least,
which is really becoming
At least the
on
second
Main
sign
Street.
is a much better fit for a historic area than the big black contemporary.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I mean, they've gone to great pains to redo the sign. I really like what they've done with it.
And I imagine a lot will cost because with putting up brick and foundation.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, the next time we're going to see is something down at Laurel Fuel. The price.
I know nothing.
But again, let me ask you this: can't you send something to the Maryland Historical Group and ask them?
And
if
ask
they,
them. Yes, there could
ask
be an
them-
email. I asked Doug if he would go on their
Yeah,
website and
They must
cite
have-
that
Oh,
question.
Preservation Maryland. I'll check them out and see what they have, and I'll remember that. Take a look at it.
I appreciate it. Thank
Sure.
you.
I mean, it's
Oh,
my
my.
understanding that the Methodist Church, St. Philip's, and I'm going to say it for St. Mary's, that they're not seeing the same volumes of people they used to see come to church.
Right.
And
Okay?
you're talking about back in the 50s and 60s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look,
It's been declining since the 70s.
yeah, and in some cases it has in fact stabilized. I mean, St. Philip's has got a very small basic congregation. I mean, my mother-in-law watches it on television. You know, Mass for shut-ins.
Right.
She might go, or she might just watch Mass for shut-ins. And I'm just saying that I think that the brick and mortar churches that we're going to see in the future will be less and less and less.
Except for those that will bend to the times.
Yeah, we'll see
you
later.
know?
Grace.
Yeah. Well, you have to look at what they're doing, and the one thing that the churches can't do is they can't stay the same, and they can't appeal to what they've always appealed to, because all of those people you're going to appeal to are going to grow old and die, and you're not going to have any children if you don't have a youth program, if you don't have all those kind of programs
agree.
Right.
for youth to
And the
bring in
events.
new people, then your church will guarantee die. And so, actually, St. Philip's has been on a very slow upward
Are they
for
going
the
up?
past
again?
8 years.
They going
Yes,
up?
they have been. Yes,
Good.
but it's very, very slow. It's nothing that's think or wah about, but it's.
But the basis of St. Philip's is, in fact, the people that have been there for what, 30 years?
30,
or more.
40, and to be honest with you, those people are starting to
Same
go by
thing
the
at St.
wayside.
Mary's.
They're
Same thing at St. Mary's?
yeah, and so you have to bring new people in and get them ingrained in leadership right away and that kind of thing. So
Yep.
that's what they're trying to achieve, and I understand that. They're trying to just hit all the points they possibly can, because you don't want to leave any stone unturned.
Right.
And I understand that. Because, I do like the look of the sign, but,
I'm
the
still hesitant.
yeah, the electronics is a big
Put a
thing.
collar on Doug and he'll go out there and recruit for the church.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Enjoy the game.
I don't know.